1 year of photography, 1 entire year of photography. Do you want to see what that looks like? Probably something along the lines of this. Now, what an absolute year it has been. It's almost been a year to this day actually, since I first picked up this camera and started shooting photos. It's been amazing, it's been truly amazing. I've met some amazing people, I've made some great friends. This time last year I could not have said photography would have been a hobby of mine. I could not have said photography would have been a lifestyle choice of mine. And here we are, 1 year later, and literally this is my life now. This is what my life revolves around. I don't think I would want it any other way, to be honest. I mean, photography is amazing. I've literally have no words for it. I love it. So I thought, what a better way to cap off this year, my first year of photography, than to make a video on what the past year has brought for me, what progress I've made over the past year, and go through what I've achieved and where this whole thing has taken me. So what I'm going to do is pull up my Instagram feed, scroll all the way down to the bottom, back to where it all started, and that's where we're going to start off. Let's have a look here. What have we got? Okay, so one of the very first photos that I ever posted, this was inside an abandoned, what was it? It was some sort of abandoned factory, and probably a couple of months before I was into photography, I was trying to start up filmmaking. That's the reason why I went to this factory, because I wanted to film a video. I never actually ended up filming a video, I don't know why. This photo here was actually shot with my phone, and this is one of the first times I've actually properly tried to edit a photo. Looking back at it now, yeah, it's an alright photo, I guess. It was, I just wanted to show off the factory. Moving on to one of the first car photos I took. This is later on. Oh, I need a drink. Sorry, I'm just getting really hot. Don't know what it is, but whenever I drink tea, I get really, really hot. Especially when I'm stood here with this softbox light in my face. So yeah, like I said, moving on a couple of weeks later, this is one of the first car photos I took. That was with this phone right here. I don't like the photo at all. It doesn't look good. Composition's alright, I guess, but it's not a very interesting background. And I actually spent ages editing this photo as well, and I thought it was really good at the time. Not so much now. And then we can go on to one of my first set of urban photos. This was in London. There's a funny story behind these photos actually. It was the 1st of January, probably about 4 o'clock in the morning I shot these. It was after me and Meg had a night out for New Year's in London, so I was pretty smashed up in these when I took these photos. But to be fair, considering that I had been doing photography for about a month, they didn't turn out that bad considering the circumstances. I've got a nice one here with the bokeh in the background. That was using the manual adjustments on this phone. I've got one of St Paul's Station, which I really liked actually. This was one of my better ones, when I was first starting off. So in January, I took a trip down to Durdle Door. If you've not been there, it's an amazing place. It's a spot down on the Dorset coast, and it's got these incredible, really high up cliffs that a lot of photographers go to. Yeah, I took a trip down there, got some nice photos, took the drone down there. It was a good time. Soon after that, that's when the urban sort of themed photos started coming in. I took some trips to Birmingham. This is when I also started heading into London as well. And yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just kind of taking photos of all the glass buildings just because they looked cool, you know. Like I'd never been into London before as a photographer, so I never really took notice of it. But because it was my first time in London, I was just taking photos of all the glass buildings, not really caring too much about composition or anything like that. I just thought it looked cool. But because I was kind of new to photography, I didn't really know how to use the camera to its full potential. I started to play around with the manual settings in camera, so I could be able to slow the shutter speed down and capture these long exposures. Yeah, this one that I got in London I was so happy with this. And I really like the edit as well. I literally spent probably about 2 hours editing this one photo. It's not even a hard edit, to be honest. I could do it in 10 minutes now. I could do it less than 10 minutes now. But yeah, no, I really liked it at the time. This is also when I started going through a stage of editing all my photos with blue in them. So it really restricted to what I was shooting at that time. But yeah, I did get a couple of shots over the next, say 2 months or so with the blue feed. Went to some more abandoned places, went over to Brecon Beacons, took the drone up, got some nice shots there as well. So it was at this point I decided enough's enough. I can't keep editing all of my photos blue because it was just kind of ruining the photos as well. It was limiting what photos I could take, and then it was my editing style to spend so long editing these photos, trying to make them all match. I wasn't enjoying it as much anymore, so I changed up what I was doing. This is also when I changed my username on Instagram to Creative Gains. Creative Gains, I can't fucking talk. Creative Gains across the whole board. I thought, you know what, it's time to kick myself into gear and get this going. So that's what we did. It was at this point I started going into London all the time and started basing most of my photos in London. And with that, I discovered the art of neon signs. This is my very first portrait with a neon sign photo, and if you look back in my videos, you'll find this video there, neon street photography in London. So if you want to check it out, feel free to do so. It was about 8 months ago. But yeah, like at the time, this is just me thinking everything looked cool. I was just, you know, just taking photos. I don't know. It was all right for my first time doing neon portrait photography, I guess. So we've got another example of it here. This one, I was actually really happy with it. This is when I started changing all of the colours about it. So the original photo was a red neon sign, and Meg's face was also red. But then I managed to change the neon sign to blue and change her face to a more neutral skin colour. Yeah, I was really impressed with that. I thought my editing was sick, you know? It was at this point I could really see myself starting to progress with my editing. And I realised the more time you put into something, the better you get at it. Like that's when it really started. Like, obviously you can be told that and not see any progress, but you really have to start putting in the effort for it. And this is when I personally started seeing it, which really motivated me to keep going and keep trying, keep going out doing these photo shoots, and that's what I did. At the end of April, I started getting a little bit more creative with my portrait ideas. So I made a video going into the woods and setting a newspaper on fire, just capturing that in an image. And I got a couple of good shots with that actually, you know, with like the fire and the particles and that. Can I just mention as well, considering I was about 4 months into photography, my Instagram feed was looking pretty good back then. Like I'm actually happy looking at it now, to be honest. I really like this set of photos. So I'm just looking through. We've got a few more London photos. Oh, this photo here. This is still a really good photo today, in my opinion. I shot this with this phone here. I was actually out for, what was I doing? I was out in lunch for London. I think it was for Meg's birthday. And I didn't have the camera with me at this point, but all I had with me was the phone. And there was this massive puddle on the floor and it made this insane reflection just as we was walking past. So I was like, oh, hang on, we got to stop here. Got my phone, put it up to the reflection like that, shot the photo, and there was this red bus perfectly in frame and it looked so good. And then I went home and edited this photo. There was loads of people in frame on the left and the right. And I managed to edit them all out just using Lightroom Mobile on my phone. And I spent so much time on that, but it turned out so good. Like honestly, I still don't know how I managed to do that on Lightroom Mobile. Like that's quite a big job to do, and I managed to do it because I didn't have the computer software. So it was around this kind of point, sort of like the end of May, beginning of June, that's when I started putting in more emphasis on the subjects in my photos. Whereas before I was just shooting photos of buildings that look cool. Now I was making sure to include subjects, whether that was like a random person, whether that was an object like me holding my phone up in frame, whether that was shooting through things such as like leaves on one corner of the frame, a bit like that. Yeah, that's when I started to get a little bit more creative with my photos. It was at this point as well that I feel like my Instagram started kicking off. I feel like the quality of my photos just improved a lot more, and I was really starting to put a lot of time into doing photography. Literally all I was doing was watching YouTube videos, going out, shooting, coming back, editing, watching more YouTube videos, learning new things. It was just an endless cycle, and it still is an endless cycle to this day. I still do that a lot. So yeah, my photos were purely London based at this point. I was heading out to all these different spots. So like here, I went to the Big Easy. I went to Broadgate Tower. I went to like this rooftop garden area in London a lot, and I started playing around with my portraits a lot more as well. So I've got this portrait of Meg, which I really liked. I've seen all this lighting in the background, and immediately I thought, you know what, that would make for some great bokeh. So the photography mindset was definitely there at this point. You know, if you've been doing photography for a little while, you can just look at something and be like, that's going to look good, or you can tell if something's not going to look good or if it'll look bad. Yeah, that was my mindset at this point. I actually really like this neon portrait that I got of Meg as well. This is when I found out you could sort of like hold your phone up to the lens like that, and you can start getting like cool reflection shots. Oh, and this was my first big Photoshop job. I'm a big fan of Stranger Things, and I wanted to make a YouTube video, and I wanted to make this photo edit of the big like spider monster thing in the background. I actually made a video on it, so if you want to check it out, you can find that down from my videos as well. It's like the Stranger Things shadow monster edit. But I spent ages on doing this photo, and I still like it to this day. I'm actually really impressed with it. So I started getting more and more creative with my shots. I started using a lot more Photoshop. This is the first time one of my photos was inspired by Geordie Coalitic, and that was, we got an empty vodka bottle and we smashed it with a hammer. Used a high shutter speed to capture that. And I still like it. I think that would make for a really good product shot actually, so I might have to sort of play around with that again in the future. Still definitely focusing on a lot more composition, especially this photo here that I really still like to this day actually. This was inside the British Museum. I really like getting photos actually of just people looking small in the frame and then just huge surroundings around them, especially if it's in like an urban environment as well. So I started meeting up with other photographers, started collabing, you know, sharing ideas, that kind of thing. Sort of getting portraits of other people as well. Again, going back to that example of making someone look small and their surroundings look huge. I went to the top of the Sky Garden, I got some cool shots up there. Yeah, that was a really good spot actually. Sky Garden has got some incredible views. I would totally go up there again. Actually, I will go up there again at some point because yeah, it's amazing up there, it really is. If you have a look at the photos on my Instagram, you'll see how many photos I've got of St. Paul's Cathedral. And I refuse to go there anymore. It's such a good spot for photos, but I've literally been there like 10 times in a row, and it's just, oh, I cannot do it anymore. St. Paul's, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna go back to you for a few months. I've had some good times getting photos out though. St. Paul's is a really, really good spot for anyone who wants to go to London and get some photos. September, end of September, this is when I started getting night photos in the city. Obviously, because the days are a lot shorter towards the end of the year, it means I can spend more time in London at night time, and it just offers like a whole new creative mindset for me to shoot in. I also really started enjoying shooting sunsets at this point as well, so I hit up a rooftop in London and managed to capture the most insane sunset I have ever seen. Unfortunately, I didn't make a video on it. I would have loved to have done that, but it was just so last minute, and I was just in the moment, you know. You know when you're just in the moment and you just wanna watch. That's what I was doing. And then a couple of weeks later, I actually did make a video on this sunset. This was also a really, really good sunset at my hometown in the Forest of Dean. Just going through September and October, we're just slowly getting better at things. I feel like the editing's getting better as we go through. Composition of my photos, subjects in my photos. It was actually going to this UK shooters meet that really made me want to focus a bit more on portrait photography. I feel like over the last year I've slacked a little bit on my portrait photography, but since doing this UK shooters meet, going there, seeing the models do their thing, and I'm just there, I'm there taking the photos, it's really got me into it a little bit more. I feel like that's going to be my focus over the next oncoming months, because I'm getting into doing skin retouching. I'm starting to use Photoshop a lot more than I am Lightroom, purely because there's a lot more you can do with it, and that just means a lot more creativity I can kind of work with, because we've got to make those creative gains. And yeah, that basically brings us up to this point in time. A few of my most recent shots, I went up to the top of the Shard for the most insane views of London. You've got a 360 platform at the top there, and the views were absolutely incredible. It's the highest point in Europe. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. I've never been that high up in a building in my entire life. Yeah, we got a good set of photos when I was up there. I'm going to be heading up there again soon. This right here is my most recent neon sign shot. So if I compare this to my very first one, you can see how much progress has been made over the course of the last year. I guess one of the main things is now knowing how to properly use my camera and what settings I should be using for what situations. And the fact that I can just jump into Photoshop and I know what tools to use, and I know what I need to do to make an edit or make a photo look right in an edit. Like I said at the start of the video, it's been an insane year. I've met some great people. I'm actually starting my first photography job next week. It's gonna be a full-time job as a photo editor, and I'm really excited to start. Like I never thought I would be a photo editor professionally in my life. I've hopefully got a lot of good stuff planned for next year. I hope to go traveling a little bit. I really want to go to Tokyo. I really want to go to Tokyo. I want to go to New York. I want to do loads of stuff next year. This first year has been me learning the basics. Next year is going to be where it all kicks off. It's been great. I want to thank all of my subscribers, all of my followers on social media. I want to thank my friends, I want to thank my family for supporting me. Now, with that being said, remember to stay up, stay humble, and I will catch you in the next one. I've got some good stuff planned coming up, so hit that subscribe button.